Hello, everyone. I'm Ravi Gupta. I am editor-in-chief of Elets Technomedia Private Limited, and we have been publishing several magazines related to banking and finance, governance, education, health. And here I am having a fireside chat with Amit Kumar, who is the CEO of OLX Autos India, which is part of the OLX group globally. Welcome, Amit. Thanks for joining in. Great to have you here with us as a part of the CIO virtual conclave which we are doing. So, Amit, let me start by asking you about the vision of OLX Autos India and OLX group itself, and what is the USP you are bringing in the market.
Thanks, Ravi. Thanks for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you and sharing with you our mission and vision. But before that, I would want to highlight that there are some really difficult times that we are going through as a globe, as a world, and I think. We should all be concerned about how things are going on, and be conscious and cautious of how things are moving forward. And with that context, coming back to us as OLX Autos and our vision and mission. So as OLX Group, we operate in 40 plus countries, and OLX Autos is a part of OLX Group, and we operate in Asia, Latin America, and the US. And as OLX Autos, we are focused on the used cars transactions ecosystem. Our mission is really to simplify the used car transactions. As OLX India, we have a classifieds business and the transactions business. We are the largest when it comes to the used cars online classifieds business. Close to 500 to 600,000 cars get listed on our platform on a monthly basis, which is more than the number of cars that get transacted in the country. And I think that our mission is really to simplify the journey of a used car buy or sell. Today, a used car buyer goes through, or a seller has multiple pain points in the journey of buying or selling a car. For example, the value of the car, who is the car being transacted with, is the car being transacted at the right price, who will buy my car, and will the paper transfer happen? And we are trying to solve some of these issues across the operating countries that we do. And we've been growing significantly. Today, we operate close to 150 retail outlets across the country, and helping our consumers have a smoother journey in buying or selling their used cars.
Fantastic. It's impressive growth and expansion indeed. Amit, like specifically asking you about the Indian market, how is it like different from other online markets which you operate in, and what is the USP or the like benefits or challenges you have by operating in India because of its uniqueness?
I think I've worked and traveled across the world, operated in some African countries, some Asian frontier countries, and Europe as well. India definitely is a unique market. Today we transact close to 4.5-5 million cars every year, used cars, slated to grow at a CAGR of around 15%. The market expected to double by 2030, 2031. I think the uniqueness of the Indian market comes in because the rapid pace of growth and the expectation of growth in the market. The second uniqueness to the Indian market is because of this potential and the consumer pain points. There are a lot of us who are trying to solve it. So it's definitely an opportunity for the future. I think there are some unique challenges to the ecosystem, which are, for example, in India, every state has its own registration template. So we do not have a system like goods and services taxes or GST, which is one nation, one tax. And that creates a difficulty in having one large market, that is India, for transacting used cars. I think while the government has been supportive of a lot of startup initiatives across the board, and a lot of progressive policies have been introduced by the government, my hope is that some of these initiatives like Bharat registration, which has been introduced on an experimental basis, will debottleneck the market. If you look at it from a consumer standpoint, I think the market has been going through some major shifts. Till 5 to 7 years ago, the type of infrastructure or roads that we used to have, uh, a car would on an average be with an individual for 5 to 7 years. But now the average age of a car is around 4 years with an individual. The reason is that we have an aspirational middle class. A lot of people come in the employment ecosystem, and as they grow and they become more aspirational, they want their car to reflect their status, or the compensation that they are drawing. And I think that's an interesting trend of an aspirational rising middle class, which is really pushing this industry up. So definitely a large market, a large opportunity, and aspirational middle class make this an extremely big opportunity and attractive market to grow in.
Fantastic. And how do you see the COVID situation impacting this online transactions in your market segment?
So COVID definitely has been around for now 2 years, and I prefer to call it 720 days by the time we reach this holy. Uh, it's been a journey every day, navigating the whole company and the whole organization personally and professionally. All of us have learned a lot with COVID, have, I think, started to live with COVID, which is our newfound reality. Uh, Used car ecosystem per se got impacted by COVID when the lockdowns hit us. Nobody could transact anything, including used cars. But COVID also brought in a few fundamental shifts in the way mobility happened in the country. Pre-COVID, a lot of us were using shared mobility as our principal source of movement. And per se, there was no specific inclination towards resisting shared spaces. I think COVID has brought in that inherent shift that people prefer their own personal vehicles now for long commutes or for moving inside the cities also. This shift led to an increase in demand for used cars. We are tracking these numbers closely, and the demand for cars is ahead. After the first wave was ahead by almost 50% of the pre-COVID levels. Now also the demand is ahead of the pre-COVID levels. The COVID also brought in a bit of economic distress. As a result, the supplies also went up. The supplies were higher by about 20 to 30%. So basically, in India, which is a supply constrained ecosystem in used cars, the gap between supply and demand increased. As a result, the prices of used cars went up. So today, if you compare the prices of used cars, they are ahead of pre-COVID levels by at least 5 to 10% on the top models.
Great. So interesting trend here, and we are now seeing the downward trend of COVID, which is happening now. So, are you seeing that we will see some different patterns in the consumer behavior?
So specifically talking about the used car consumer here, Ravi, I think COVID has had some short to medium term changes and some long term changes. Preference for personal mobility as a change, I do see it for medium term, because COVID, while it is in a downward spiral, there was a report which was published last week, which said that there could be another COVID wave in a few months. And I think while I do not want to give credence to that report or that opinion, what I want to say is that there is still uncertainty in the minds of the consumer when it comes to what will happen in or after next few months. And that would continuously mean that people will prefer personal mobility to shared mobility for medium term. I think the used car transactions industry used COVID uh, to help people who really needed personal mobility. We really came to their rescue because people could afford cars or their personal mobility in the times of economic distress. And that's a permanent shift which will push the growth rate for used cars in long term, because now people realize that they can own an asset which is a used car at much lesser prices compared to a new car. And that is the reason that you see that while the new car sales have seen their ups and downs, the used car transactions are growing at a very rapid pace.
Sure. So, Amit, if you look at this industry and people buying cars or transacting about their cars or used their cars online was a dream, something a decade back or even 7 years back, 6 years back. So, how's that people are handling this issue of having that touch and feel, or actually finding about the quality of the car? So how as a company you are helping them give that experience which they used to have in a physical environment?
That's a great question, Ravi. And I would divide the answer into two broad buckets. The easier answer is when I want to sell my car. And there is a seller, consumer, and there is a buyer, an organization or company like us or our dealer partners. Here, the shift that has happened is that as a seller, I want to sell my car, as OLX, we've started enabling for the consumer an artificial intelligence led inspection, which can be done online by the consumer. So the consumer can provide much more information about her car, which gets to us as OLX. And as OLX, we've started providing services which are at home or contactless digital buying processes and systems. So basically, as a consumer, you can sell your car from the comfort of your home. Similarly, the same information and the detail that we captured while the consumer did the self-inspection, the same information that gets showcased on our platform when a buyer wants to buy the same car. So a buyer gets much richer information about the car he or she is looking for, allows him to go further in the journey of making the decision. We also provide home test drives at consumers' location to enable the decision making from home itself. From the journey perspective, going fully digital is a long road, and every part of the journey is getting digitized and automated step by step. The full digital transaction and full online buying of car has started happening in the US, for example. It will take some more time for the Indian consumer to build that confidence and buy the car online or sell the car fully online. But I think the process has started with a very rapid pace. And I am quite excited personally to see us just moving from an fully offline transaction to a fully online transaction. And it's happening at a very, very rapid pace. And as an organization, we are building all the enablers to help the consumer do that decision.
Great, amazing, and fantastic. So I wish to ask you that this there are several companies like you who are competing in this space. So as an overall market size, that how much market has gone digital, and how much is still to be captured by this online ecosystem?
I think this is again a question which we answered. So a few months back, we published a study in association with CRISIL, and this study did a deep dive on the Indian used car ecosystem and the trends for the future. And some of the data points about the growth and the market doubling in next 10 years were taken from that study. Here, the specific question that you are asking is, what percentage of the market is organized and how fast is it slated to grow? I think the market is in the nascent stages of getting organized and digitized. Almost half the transactions today happen between consumer to consumer, and our OLX online classifieds platform is providing that service across the board. As far as the specific organization of the market is concerned, I expect the market to be digitized by almost 35 to 40% in next 3 to 5 years.
And what is that percentage right now?
This is more in the 15 to 20% zone, Ravi, today.
Okay, okay. So we are in that 80 or 20 game. So we are
Correct,
still
correct. You are right. Yeah.
okay, great.
And that's
So
what creates the whole opportunity, right?
yes, yes. If you have still have 80% market, which is still untapped, unorganized, say massive opportunity. So let me ask you that what are the growth enablers from a government ecosystem that you would expect that like if the government supports in these steps, it will help the industry grow?
I was referring to some of these in my initial introduction, Ravi. I
Yes.
think government has been quite supportive of the startup ecosystem, and the startup ecosystem continues to create value, generate employment at scale. Specifically talking about the used car ecosystem, one big area which can debottleneck the used car transactions is today our registration process is an RTO or a location based process. So in Haryana, in Gurgaon, you might have one or two RTOs. So there would be a car which will be registered HR26, another one HR27. In order to transact cars at a national scale, what we need and what the government has started on a pilot basis is BH registration. So today it's very difficult to transact a car from Haryana to Tamil Nadu or Haryana to Jammu Kashmir. And if you have to do that, it's a cumbersome process where you have to get an NOC from the home state, deposit that in the new state, and then transact the car. Coming up with a national registration for the car will be a massive debottlenecking to the whole used car transactions. The second area is today, when a car goes from a to a car buyer, there are intermediaries like us, OLX Autos, which enable or facilitate that transaction. Sorry. But in regulatory or legal terms, there is no intermediary ownership provision that exists. And enabling that makes the process transparent and smooth for both the buying consumer and the selling consumer, and makes the whole chain more predictable. We've been working with some of the RTOs to enable that, but solving at a systemic level with NIC can definitely again provide greater transparency to both the buyer and the seller.
Fantastic. So what you are like saying that today this system is state centric, and transacting between states is difficult because of their own
Correct.
regulations in each states. and having a intermediary buyer as a entity, getting organized is very important. And Amit, asking you from a technological standpoint, asking you that uh, um, uh, what are the in your like as a your online platform, how it is like technologically superior or excellent, and what are the innovations you are doing, if you can highlight on these points. You have already touched upon it, but if you wish to expand uh, anything.
Sure. So, Ravi, if I have to principally answer that question,
Hmm.
we as an industry are trying to translate a physical asset into a digital asset
Hmm.
and enabling the transaction basis the information which is digital.
Yes.
So we create a digital inspection report for used car, and every used car is unique,
Hmm.
and then help a buying dealer or a consumer make the decision basis that digital inspection report. The innovation or the journey that we are going through
Hmm.
is to make this digital footprint or photocopy of a car more and more reliable, more and more trustworthy, more and more tangible, so that you get the best representation of the reality. And as I told you, today we enable an AI model based self inspection of a car on the OLX app. That is one step, and we are continuously improving that in order that the buyer gets a real feel of the car. In addition, I think there is a lot of effort that we are putting in on helping the paper transfer process of the car. There are multiple data bases which need to work together. For example, the bank, the insurance company, the RTO, in order that the car ownership gets transferred from the buyer to the seller. And here we are bringing these databases together, collating that information, giving the information to the seller and then to the buyer. And that's again, to me, in an environment where there are different and difficult data sets to collate, is a journey to be traveled.
Sure. Amit, asking you another thing, that how your platform's customer experience is better than having a in-store or physical transaction itself. Like the people have that mindset that I will go to the store, I will look at a car, and I will then do the transaction. So, are you saying that you're buying or doing this transaction through your platform online, which uh, will make the customer get a better price and have a more better experience? Are you like saying that? And if yes, how?
That is our effort, Ravi,
Hmm.
because the advantage of a physical transaction is touch and feel and handshake.
Hmm.
The advantage and the way the world is moving forward and progressing
Hmm.
of interacting and transacting with a phygital platform like us.
Hmm.
And the reason that I am saying phygital is because we offer all the points in journey for the customer to transact in a physical way also, but we encourage our consumers to go through the digital journey because that is more convenient, seamless for the consumer. Because we have the ability to translate a physical asset into digital, we have the ability to get a better price discovery for the car, because the same car can be seen by many more buyers and then given a better price. Similarly, uh, the consumer has all the details of the whole journey digitized in his or her mailbox. Similarly, when a customer is wanting to buy a car, physically you can see only so many cars. We offer a much wider and bigger choice in number of cars. Plus, because we can integrate with multiple partners, we allow or help the consumer through insurance, through consumer financing, through roadside assistance, and all these things can be enabled digitally. Again, it is about providing convenience, providing seamless experiences, providing greater variety to choose from, and greater reliability also.
So Amit, asking you in the as a towards the end of this discussion, uh, it is normally assumed that tier one cities in India are more internet friendly compared to the other cities. So, has been experience of your platform, and what is the vision regarding going to the smaller cities?
So, of course, the Indian journey of internet started with tier one cities. But as we see the upcoming cities, specifically from the used car lens, uh, the new car purchase is concentrated in the top cities. But when you start looking at the used car business, that's a more broad based business in a comparative sense, because new cars get bought in the top metros. After being used for 3 to 5 years, they also move to the smaller cities, and a typical car can have a life between 10 to 15 years. As now we have legislation around when to not use a car or when to scrap a car. Uh, but as the car gets older, it starts to move to smaller cities, and that's a more broad based business. But in general, I would still say that the used car and the new car businesses are still more concentrated on the bigger cities. The top 10 cities of the country would account for a significant chunk.
And how are you seeing the? I will ask you a generic question: that how are you seeing the future of this e-commerce industry? Because since you are the platform online, so you are doing e-commerce in many senses. So how are you seeing the overall journey of the next 5 years or 3 4 years of e-commerce? If you can throw some light.
Sure. So here I will move a level above the used car transactions business that we do. I think in India, what we've done at some level, and countries go through different stages of retail maturity. So first you have small retailers selling everyday goods, and then comes in the modern trade, which is organized retailers, and then comes in the online retailers, which are the large global players and Indian companies also. With the revolution of internet in India and mobile penetration and internet penetration per se, I see us being able to catapult the modern trade revolution itself. In long term, I do definitely see e-commerce continuing to become a much bigger pie of the overall around $800 billion retail in the country. And this is going to happen through multiple innovations which will happen at the value chain level, starting from manufacturing. Today people are talking about manufacturing to consumer, so you manufacture only what you can sell to the consumer. Then there are platforms which are coming in direct to consumer and building brands to sell to the consumer. Then you are talking about social commerce, which is again gaining quick traction. And then you are talking about revolution in logistics with delivery coming in from drone, and there are new guidelines from the government on how can those things be enabled. So I see an end-to-end revolution which has started to happen, and the next 10 years will see us in a different place altogether.
Fantastic and amazing vision. And let me wish thank you, Amit. I think we had some interesting conversation, and in fact, I have learned a lot in last half an hour from you about this whole industry, which is very, very interesting and exciting. And congratulations to your company OLX for doing some really innovative work in this segment of online commerce in this huge car segment. Yeah, thank you so much, Amit.
Thank you very much, Ravi, for having me here. It was a pleasure talking to you.
And we have this appreciation and thanks for being here. The certificate presented to you virtually, Amit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ravi.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
me having me here.
Thank you. Pleasure.